Welcome to Life Lessons and Law with Lashonda. I'm your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. You can find this show on my website, www.thecounselfirm.com, and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Now, please join me in Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. And today is a day that I have been waiting for so long, and I'm so excited about our guest today, and you will see why. Today we have Miss Faith Broussard Cade. She is a counselor and CEO of Florida Lee Speaks, and this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to interview one of my former clients. So that's different for me. But when you listen to Faith, you will understand why her name is the epitome of who she is. And Faith, I can't say enough about you and how in us coming together through a not so good situation, you taught me so much about persistence and about having faith, because you had to have a lot of faith with what you were going through. And I definitely don't want to go into too much of that, because we're celebrating good times. And we're celebrating everything that you are and everything that you bring to so many people. I was looking at your Instagram, and I always go there because if I need a little pep for the day, your little snippets, your little handwritten notes, which is so interesting how something so simple can impact so many. So I'm going to stop talking now, but Faith, talk to us about your journey and what inspired you to start writing on the little notes and inspiring over 300,000 people on Instagram.
Okay, well, I wasn't planning on crying at all, especially not in the first minute of this. But it is what it is. I've learned to accept it as my journey. I've learned to accept it as my truth. So back in, I know the date vividly, January 9th, 2018, I was in a motor vehicle accident, hit from behind by a tractor trailer, and sustained a concussion and a traumatic brain injury, which are kind of like lifelong conditions. They don't just go away. You get better at managing the limitations or the challenges, but they still exist. At that time, I was working as a school counselor in a Johns Creek suburb of Atlanta, and I was on my way to work that morning when it happened. I didn't know how. I had no idea how badly things had gotten or how affected by that accident I would be. In my mind, I thought, well, my back hurts and I have a headache. I'll go back to work in a few days and be fine. Well, that turned out to not be the case. And I started to have chronic migraines and memory loss and sensitivity to light and sound, and severe mood swings, and just all sorts of things, and kept going to doctors, not really able to get diagnosed properly until finally I was. Um, and that's partially when you came into the picture as well. And and receiving that diagnosis then kind of put me on a treatment plan of how to
Mhm.
move forward. What are the therapies that I need? I have vertigo, so I need to get therapy for that. I need to see a neuropsychiatrist. I need to see an orthopedic doctor, all these different things. And pressing through that, but at the same time, um, uh, my job, the school district is like, "Hey, when you come back to work?"
Yeah.
Well, uh, I can't yet. So then my FMLA ended, and I was essentially given an ultimatum: either return to work, cleared by your clinicians, um, resign, or we'll terminate you. So I chose to resign because I was nowhere near being cleared by my doctors because I had just been properly diagnosed and just started treatment. So, now what do I do? I wasn't planning on being without a job or without income. My family went down from two incomes to one. Um, I have a husband. At the time, my daughter was 3.5, in chronic pain, just like there wasn't a whole lot I could do. And I I had to figure out
Mhm.
my new truth in this new situation. Like, what is my new normal? I had
Mhm.
always been a counselor. That's how I helped people. I felt like that was my purpose in life.
Mhm.
But now that I can't do that anymore, well, now what am I supposed to do? I can barely pick up my daughter because I'm in so much pain. I can't be the mom that I've always wanted to be. I can't be the wife that I've always wanted to be. What am I going to do? And um, most mental health professionals are great at giving advice, and we
Yeah.
don't always do what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
So I was so good at like telling people about boundaries and rest and take care of yourself.
Mhm.
Boy, when it came down to me doing it for myself, I struggled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
No.
you define yourself almost by all the things you do and all the things you're able to accomplish.
Yeah. I distinctly remember sitting at your kitchen table. We were talking, and you were talking about the dinner, the laundry, the this, the that you had to do. And I'm like, Miss Cade, you have a brain injury.
Mm,
It is okay to rest.
mhm.
And I'm sure everything is going to be okay. But you were used to being that person with the baking the cakes and the this and the that. And people were
Yeah.
come to you as the hostess. And I
Uh-huh.
remember, like I said, I was sitting there and I was like, wow, this is what we as women, as mothers, as wives,
Mhm.
put ourselves through.
Mhm.
And your injury was really on a list of things to do and to take care of was probably number 10. But that cake was number 1, that laundry was number 2,
Yeah,
and but
yeah.
that's how we are wired even when
Mhm.
we're down to keep going.
Mhm.
And with
Mhm.
you particularly, and this happens with a lot of my clients who have, severe brain injuries, you're beautiful. People don't understand what a brain injury looks like. They look at someone like you and they're like, she is articulate. She's going around day to day.
Mhm.
She looks well on the outside. Oh, she must not have any type of deficits. And that is
Mhm.
far from the
Mm.
truth. And a lot
Right.
of times people in your situation, they're not believe people don't believe you. Because when they don't see you, they want to see when they think of injury, they want to see you falling out, they want to see you
Right.
slumped over. They want
Right.
mental injuries can take a toll. Because
Yeah.
I remember,
Mhm.
I was like, wow, I really have to make sure that we as women, like I use your situation as a lesson that
Mhm.
it is okay when things are not going well. It is okay to take the back seat, but we just
Mhm.
put so much pressure on ourselves. And
We really
I saw it in you. I saw it.
we really do. It was almost like it now years later that I've done the work, all therapists have therapy or should anyways. After doing my own work, I realized that my busyness, it was habit, it was a
Mhm,
learned behavior, it was something
mhm.
that I had seen my mom and my granny and everybody in my family just always
You do
doing
it.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? Um, and part of it also, though, for me was fear.
Mm,
It was fear. It was fear that if I stopped doing stuff, maybe I'd never get back to doing stuff. If
right.
I stopped, um, baking, if I stopped making those recipes, maybe eventually I would forget. If I
Mhm.
stopped getting out of the routine of popping up at the crack of dawn and getting up and getting my daughter ready for school and getting out of bed and packing lunches and writing lunch notes and volunteering to be preschool room mom, that would I wouldn't be able to do those things anymore.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there was also part of a fear of, which I think a lot of us don't always embrace, is when we stop, that's when it gets quiet
Mhm.
and there's no noise distracting us. There's no background noise. There's no to-do list. There's no, oh, let me run right quick and do that and this and this. Oh, my alarm just went off. I need to remember to pick up that for so and so, take so and so to practice. And when it gets quiet,
Oh.
that's when you have to deal with your stuff.
Yeah.
That's when it gets real. That's when there's nothing else around you to take your attention or your energy,
Mm,
and you just there with yourself and your thoughts. And you really have to do some soul searching and
mhm.
some deep thinking about not only what you've been through, because those are things that we can't control, right? But there is the part of it where you have to reconcile with your actions and your behaviors
Yes.
that have not been conducive to your health and your healing.
Oh,
You have to
yes.
deal with your perfectionism and
Mhm.
overachieving, which is causing you to be overwhelmed and burnt out. And even though you want to blame it on all these things you have to do, really, you just adding a lot of that stuff to your plate and you
Oh,
just need to let it go.
yeah. It's so interesting to hear you say that because, every time, like, say, for instance, if my husband and kids are out of the house, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do now?
Girl,
I'm like, wait a minute.
I was trying to find, like, wait, who am I? What?
Right.
Surely there's something that I'm supposed to be doing. And then when you're like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do stuff. I'm gonna take this time for myself. Then you're like, wait, well, what
Well,
do I even want to do for myself?
oh my
What do I
goodness.
even like to do?
Yeah, oh my good, and it's so crazy because I begged for that time, like, "I need some time alone. I need some time by myself," and then when I get it, I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, maybe I should get ahead for next week because this
Right.
stuff is on the like, I have a difficult time
Mhm.
being in the moment and
Being
saying
present.
rest is okay, and
Mhm.
then I turn the television and I'm like, "Well, where's the dog? The dog
Right.
needs." And, like, I started going down the list, so
Uh-huh.
if the humans don't need anything,
Right.
the dog
Right.
needs something.
Right. Or
Coming
that in the future, like, well, we're gonna have to eat dinner tonight, and I hadn't taken
yes,
anything out of the freezer. That could be defrosting while I'm
right,
relaxing. You go take something out, then you see there's old food in the fridge that needs to be
yes,
cleaned out. Then you start cleaning out the fridge, and then your little time is over. Then you mad. Then
I'm
you mad because you didn't get your
big mad,
time.
big big
Big
mad, and
mad.
I'm like, I feel as exhausted as I did when y'all were here, so what was the point of
What
this?
was the point?
What was the
Mhm.
point? And it's something
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not delivered from that. I struggle with that
The
all the
Lord's still working on all of us.
working on me because I just can't sit myself down. Still, like
Mhm.
stillness is like, am
Mm.
I wasting time?
It
Am I
absolutely.
what?
We're so productivity focused or efficiency focused, that that we see time as opportunity to fill,
Yes.
not just be, right? Not just focus on being more than doing, but just if I will purposefully put like white spaces in my planner, my calendar, which I
Mhm.
live and die by because I can't
Yeah.
survive on a planner. And when I get to that place where I'm supposed to be taking a break or not doing something, I I've gotten better about using that time for myself,
Mhm.
but the hesitation is still there,
Yeah.
right? That inner critic that's in the back of your mind telling you, "Don't be lazy. You
Right.
don't need to be sitting around.
Mhm.
There's things that need to be done. Don't you need to get ahead on fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Make your online grocery order," whatever the case
Yes.
may be. There's always laundry to be d if you have kids, there's always laundry to be done,
Never
right?
ending pile. Yeah.
So I think a big part of it for me came it was actually really a come to Jesus when doctor said, it was a neurologist, it was Dr. Ashley,
Oh, yeah.
she said, "Miss Cade, I know that you are used to doing everything and being everything. Um, However, if you don't, like my granny used to say, get somewhere and sit down,
Yes, get somewhere and sit down.
you will not recover fully from this.
Yeah.
You will not. You will, your brain has listened to a traumatic brain injury. Your brain has been through trauma, is experiencing trauma, and it needs to heal and it needs to rest in
Mm,
order for it to recover, regenerate itself, recuperate. If you don't do that, you are going to be left with lifelong deficits that
mm,
you won't be able to do anything about later. Like time is so important right now. We have to tackle this
right.
now.
Now, right now.
And So for me, the choice then became I felt like my hand was forced.
Yeah.
It was, do I choose the facade of superwoman
Mm,
for now, or do I choose the possibility of a future
mhm,
later? I had to
mhm.
pick. I had to pick. Do I want to be doing all the things to have people say, "Oh, she has a brain injury. She was in a car accident and she's still doing all the stuff she did before,"
Right.
right? Even though we don't like doing all the things, we a little bit like when people say that about
Yeah,
us, right?
yeah,
That
yeah,
we won't admit it, but we
right.
like the praise that
Yeah,
comes from us being a
yes.
martyr, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And, like, do I want that? Is that gonna sustain me 5 years from now, 10 years from
Mm,
now, when I can't remember to do this for my daughter, or I can't remember to
mhm.
show up for this or show up for that? It wasn't worth it for
Yeah,
me, and that was the decision-making factor of when I when I learned to get somewhere and sit down, when
uh-huh.
I just I I I I watched mindless trash TV.
Oh, I love
But I didn't like it because I wasn't even watching my, like, uh, mafia or drug cartel
yeah,
documentaries, which are my favorite. Like,
right.
they told me I couldn't watch stuff that, like, engaged my mind. It just
Yeah,
need to be bleh,
well,
stuff that
okay,
I wasn't interested in. So
okay.
that was difficult, um, but I didn't die. I did
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And so tell me, I remember that, well, one thing, well, 2 points I wanna make. We have to be careful of what we're showing our daughters too.
Oh,
We have
absolutely.
to be careful, and that's one thing when I'm busy bee, sometimes I purposely, although it pains me, will sit
Mhm,
down, even though I know I have stuff to do, because I'm
mhm.
like, "My daughter's watching," and I want to stop that cycle
Mhm.
of be everything, do everything for
The
everybody.
self-neglect, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's one thing, and 2, for you personally, I remember you had your daughter, you wanted another child during that time,
Mhm,
and you had to step out on faith and say, "Okay, although doctors may say
mhm.
you should wait," you said you had the faith to say, "No, I want another child," and now you have a beautiful little boy, but
I do.
walk through that, just having to say, "You know what? Come what may come,
Mhm.
I am moving forward, and I have faith that everything's gonna be alright."
Yeah, Dominic, that's his
Yeah,
name, sweet angel boy. He definitely was a faith walk.
yeah,
Throughout my journey, throughout my 15-day, self-love challenge where I started writing the notes and then posting them, and then it grew to this thing that I never planned to happen, for which I'm very grateful, but it wasn't intentional. It was, "Faith, you gotta sit down. What are you gonna do to start your healing journey in the
mhm,
midst of essentially being homebound and
yeah,
quarantined?"
yeah,
So I started writing myself a little positive affirmation, said I would do it for 15 days, started posting them on Instagram for accountability, and then I couldn't stop writing them because people needed them. They kept
mhm,
asking me to write them, kept telling me how my story resonated with theirs, or how they too have an invisible disability that
yes,
people tend to disbelieve, or people tend to tell them they're making stuff up
yeah,
when they really are suffering. And not only are they suffering and pushing through with this thing every day, they don't just have themselves to take care of. They
Right.
have their families. And so
Mhm.
that grew. I was still in recovery, still doing therapy, still taking a ton of medication. And all my doctors are saying, like, no, yeah, all the stuff
Yeah.
that you're taking, you cannot try to conceive. To be quite honest, there were some points where I thought I was going into early menopause. When I tell you I was having hot flashes and my cycle was irregular. It just like everything was starting because I had never been a person to take a lot of medication before
Right.
outside of, Midol or something during that time of the
Sure.
month and birth control. I was like, that was it. So
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
on pain medicine and memory medicine and mood medicine and anxiety medicine, like all this stuff. I was on migraine injections.
Mhm.
You remember how painful that was,
Yeah.
giving myself an injection in
Injections.
my
I remember that.
thigh every month for migraine. Um, they said it's not safe to try to conceive. So fast forward for years, I'm taking all this medicine and I I can't say that I was seeing a huge improvement in my
Mhm.
condition. That's when I realized, though, that I was putting more faith in doctors and medications to fix me than I was in my own faith and
Mhm.
my own ability to figure out what was best for me.
Right.
So, um, it's very interesting. November of 2020, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication, and they told me that my insurance wouldn't cover my birth control anymore. I'm
Oh,
like, "Mm, oh, okay." Um, I walked out without getting it, and I thought to myself, maybe that's the push I need. Maybe
yeah.
that's like. So instead of doing this, like, oh, you're supposed to wean yourself off of
Yeah.
all of these strong medications, I November 2020, I just went cold turkey. I stopped taking everything. I was like, oh, well, insurance doesn't cover my birth control anymore. I'm not getting nothing else. I'm
Yeah.
not picking up nothing else. And well, in January of 2021, sweet baby Dom was conceived on um little getaway trip for mom and
Oh,
dad to Charleston. Um and he is without a doubt the most beautiful, precious. Now, he's not following directions or anything, so we're not
right.
gonna say he's perfect, but he will be 2 in a couple of weeks, and, it's like he was always supposed to be here.
I can say, and I don't wanna,
It's
tear up.
okay.
I remember going to my mailbox, and when I saw his birth announcement, the I don't recall. It was probably one of my top 10 joyful moments because I knew how much you all wanted him. You wanted another baby, and to go to my mail. And I remember that day. It wasn't. I was having one of those little crazy days, and I'm like, "This is for the birds," where you're like, "These clients got me," and I opened it, and it was like a ray of sunshine, because your family is so special and you all deserve that. And I remember the fears you all had about that. You wanted Sydney to have a sibling.
I
You
did.
wanted her to be a big sister, and then to just open your mailbox and see that joy. It I was like, wait a minute. It was right on time. And I'm definitely not trying to,
No, it's
but
okay. It's
I
okay.
remember how I felt when I opened that. And I was
Mm,
like, this, it makes it all worthwhile. It
mhm,
just, I mean,
mhm.
whew, okay.
I remember you called me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I felt like I was having a baby. I was like, we're having a baby. Oh my God. It was just, well, one, because I get so wrapped up in my cases, my
Mhm.
husband is like, you gotta leave it alone. But when
Yeah.
you basically are thrown into the lives of people and you're helping them, you can't disconnect. You cannot. You
Right,
cannot.
right.
And
I get
so
it.
that, like I said, I was like, oh, we're about to have a baby. Oh my God. It was so crazy. It was so crazy. But I hate that we have to end. Like I told you, it's like,
Oh, no, no, no,
oh
no.
my gosh, this was so, you've brought joy again. And like I told the viewers, listeners, you're going to understand why Faith is the perfect name for you. But I do want you to talk quickly about one thing. Can
Yeah.
you give advice to caregivers of someone, or
Oh,
family members of someone who has someone they care about that is going through a traumatic brain injury and who's healing? Give us a few quick tips.
um, yeah, sure. Had a lot of time to think
Y-
about that, a lot of time
Yeah.
to consider it, when you're in a situation like that and you have people helping you. I'm already an empath, but um, watching people show up for me,
Yeah.
um, even though it was difficult because I was always the helper,
Yeah.
right? So to accept help was made my skin crawl.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it exactly. Um, I would say first and foremost, just show up.
Hmm.
Just show up. You don't have to have any specific agenda. You
Hmm.
don't have to have solutions, because being on the flip side of it, the last thing I wanted during that time was for people to be telling me what I needed to be doing,
Yeah.
or um, what I needed to be trying, or have you tried this acupuncture, or
Hmm.
there's a time and a place for everything. But when somebody's in the thick of
Yeah.
their entire life being turned upside down, they don't need that.
Right.
They just need you to be there. And so, um, men are a lot more, you know, logistics and
Yeah.
and and,
Solve it.
and problem solvers.
Solve it. Solve it.
And uh, my dear sweet husband and I had to have several conversations
Yeah.
about, um, I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to try to fix me. I
Hmm.
just need you to listen, and I just
Yes. Oh,
need you to support me, even if I'm just crying and you ask me what's wrong. A lot of times, I'm not gonna be able to tell you
right.
what's wrong because
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Right.
wrong,
Right.
but just sit there and just hold me and just
Yes.
wait until I'm done. And so even now, years later, there's still when I'm in the thick of it, going through it as I am right now in the midst of writing a book and have very pressing deadlines. The question is, so are you telling me this because you want me to like help you figure it out,
Right.
or you just want me to listen?
There you
No,
go. Oh, yes.
pick one. And that helps because then it prevents me from being resentful of
Yes.
him trying to step in and take
Yes.
charge and take over and almost make me feel like I'm not doing enough to fix whatever the issue is.
Yes.
I'm not trying to fix it. I just am exhausted.
Yeah.
I've been up for 4 days and
Yes.
I
Yes.
still and HarperCollins still wants this edit
Yes.
tomorrow. So this is not you solving for A, B, or C.
Yes.
This is just I just need you to just let me sob.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Faith, how can our viewers and listeners find you?
Oh, okay. Well, place where most people find me is on Instagram at Flirtily
Mhm.
Speaks, FLEURDELISSPEAKS. And I'm also on Facebook. Um, I'm also on TikTok, but I don't really know how to work it that much. So probably
I
don't
hear
go
I
to
feel
TikTok.
you. Yeah, I feel you.
And, but I have a website, just www.flirtilyspeaks.com, where some of my self-published guided journals in merch is on there, as well as my story, as well as blog posts, as well as a way to contact me. Just to chat, to contact me for a consultation for counseling services, or to contact me to come and speak. I do a lot of uh, keynote speaking and self-care workshops and women's retreats and all sorts of things like that. And yeah, I think that's the main thing. And then September of next year, I'll have a book coming out,
Yes.
um, which I'm very, very excited about and very grateful for the opportunity. It just kind of fell in my lap. Um, and because two things can be true at once, I'm also very ready to be done with it. So, um,
I got you. I got you.
but yeah, so it'll be out next year, and I think it's it's gonna help a lot of people. It's gonna
Oh,
change a lot of
absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, Faith.
Of
And it was
course.
a pleasure.
No,
I
I'm
feel like I
sad
had a
that it's already over.
yeah, it's yeah. So that means we'll have to do it again.
Mhm,
But everyone, please go to Instagram, and you will truly not be sorry when you follow Faith and you see the wonderful work that she is doing for us that helps you understand that it's okay to slow down. It's
mhm,
okay to have faith. It is
mhm,
okay to do what feels good to you and that
mhm,
you know what your purpose is. So until
mhm.
next time, everyone. You've been tuning into Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. I hope you'll join me each time. You can find this show on my website at www.thecounselfirm.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. We appreciate your positive comments and reviews. And don't forget to share this show with others. I've been your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers.